So when we're done with the clothing bases, I think it's time to add a little bit more detail to the costume to make it more interesting. So if you've been following my tutorial to the brim, there will be a pretty easy way for adding a lot of details to make this interesting. So let's not wait for anything and let's go. But before I do, let's just me set up my screencast keys so you can see what's happening. Okay, so I'm gonna start with the easiest detail first, adding some of the shoulder pads. If you've been retopologizing the same way as I did, creating shoulder pads will be extremely easy. So what I'm going to do is use face selecting and select faces like this. By the way, I'm holding Ctrl and it makes much easier to select a line of faces. So I will not need these two. And it's really just how you want it to look like. So I think mine's gonna be like this. You can even take this one if you want. We can take this, maybe it's going to make it a bit more interesting. Okay, so what I will do is just Shift D to duplicate it and P to separate the selection. I'll go back in object mode and select what we made. Select everything and just scale it up. Now we will have a perfectly nice looking shoulder pads. I'm just going to work a bit more on the shape. Sometimes the subdivision modifier might be in a way where you cannot really focus on how the shape is looking like, so don't be afraid to hide it. And just tweak in a shape where you would be happy with the shape. We can still adjust it a bit later with the sculpting tool, so don't be too much worrying about how it's looking like. So when I'm done with the shape, I will select everything and extrude. When I'm extruding and just moving how the extrusion lets me, it feels like it doesn't do a great job. So maybe sometimes using inflate can be better. Alt S is the inflate shortcut. And I think we have a pretty nice base for what we're going to make. Let's turn on subdivision and see how it looks like. Pretty good. Maybe how it looks like it too. Yeah, I think I like it. So I'll turn it off for a bit and I'll just add few loops in here. And these loops will be helpful for creating an inner part. So I'll start selecting the middle. And when I'm done, I'm just gonna extrude it. And I have the extruder on plate, and I will Alt S again to inflate it inside. Now we have something like this shape. Let's test it out with the subdivision. Looks pretty interesting and nice. Okay. So another thing, as you can see, we have some of the greasing left from the previous jacket. So I think I'm gonna still fix the shape and then work with the greases. I will select this line and I think it's too much inside. So I'll double tab G and slide it a bit closer to the middle. So the fall off is better. I think this has a nice fall off, so I'm not worrying about this one. Let's work on this one. Okay. I think it's perfectly fine now. So I will select the outer line and crease this first. Shift E if you forgot the shortcut. Let's do the same with the bottom edge. And now when we will crease, it's going to look like this. Of course, we need to fix the corners. Can fix this one as well. You can do that inside because you see this one doesn't have this is from the shirt. I didn't make this crease now, but if it doesn't have, it looks weird. With this, it looks decently nice. Same goes for here. And you can crease even the corners if you want. I'm going to do this. And we have a nice shaped shoulder pad, so that's really quick way of adding a little bit more detail to the model, but I think we should continue and try to make this more interesting as a whole concept. So next I'm going to again select the shirt. Let's maybe move this to the basis for now. Select the shirt, make sure nothing else is selected, so just Alt A. That helps you deselect everything. And with the face selection tool, I will just map out a part of the arm. Maybe one more or less. How you think will be looking the best. So Shift D, again, P for separation, and separate. Let's now go into edit mode of this object, select it. I will inflate it just a little bit so it's not that close to the shirt itself. I mean, it's not touching the shirt. It might be still touching your shirt a little bit, but that's fine. So I think we can extrude. Yeah, if we will find in the problems, we can just redo it quickly. So nothing to worry about. And when you're inflating with Alt S, you can always change. But if you're just working with the extrusions, you cannot. So inflating is very, very good tool. And I'll add edges loops in here again so we can extrude inner part. If you want, you can dissolve these edges and make it low poly. Okay. So let's select all these faces. Extrude, and when extrusion is done, we can Alt S to deflate it inside. Now, again, we will need to work on the creasing. So let's crease all these edges. You don't need to crease the inner edge, but if you want, you can do that. I will do it. Again, it's a lot about how you choose to make it, but if you like what I'm doing, then you can follow it exactly the same. But I'm just saying that there's a lot of variation that you can put in. So I see the shading black cube in here. That means that there's a problem something. I can see there's no crease in here. That's very easy way of seeing where we might be lacking something in a place. Same goes for here. Okay, let's get our cube back. I don't remember how it's called. Let's put it in a tutorial and just hide the bases. And you can see the characters are already looking much more interesting, but I think this lacks a bit more of the shape. So I'll go into the sculpting mode. If you have it on mirror, you don't really need symmetry, but you can still have it on. And what I'm going to do now is just try to drag this one a bit higher, creating this type of shape. And I think it makes it look much more interesting. You can do the same in here, but it's not a must. And yeah, I think it's much more interesting. We could add a little more ornaments on the top on there, but for now I think it's looking pretty good. Okay, so we're kind of done with the shirt, so let's hide it and let's work on the lower part of the body. First, the pants looks kind of empty, so what I'm going to do is select this face, this loop around, Shift D again, P, and separate. So you probably have a gist of what we're doing already, and I'll just go into edit mode of that one face, select the bottom loop and drag it a bit down with the Z axis, and do the same for the top one, drag it on the Z axis but higher. Now we will have to hide the body and the pants, so I can actually see a bit more. I can hide the shirt as well, and we have this kind of theme that we made for pants, but we should get rid of it on the belt. So what I'm going to do is select the middle, delete faces, and delete faces. Now we can just select both of these and make a face here. And we can do two things, or three even. We can leave this how it is. We can dissolve one edge, or we can try to make it fit in. I think I'm just going to leave it here because it doesn't really create too much problems, and we can see a little bit in the shading, the crease here, but I don't think it's going to be a problem. And let's unhide the pants. You see that why the naming would be pretty great. And I see that on X-axis in here we are lacking visibility, so I'll scale on X-axis, a bit on E-axis, and maybe at this time I will just go into the sculpting mode using a grab tool. I'll position the belt in better place. Don't forget that I have a mirror, so if you're trying to drag here, you won't be able to. And we have a base of our belt. I will drag this one a bit higher so it looks more smooth. And just select everything, extrude and inflate. Alt S. Figure out the thickness you want on your own. I will create two loops again for making an inner part, because we're trying to create a same looking style in every part of the clothing, so it kind of follows one design. Alt S again, and let's get in. Now you can see we're actually having some troubles where we got this type of weird thingy. So let's hide the pants and let's fix this. This actually happens all the time, where this gets merged and you cannot really change anything about it. But what we're going to do is just delete the vertex here, and you can we still have this. You can see we still have that. I'll just extrude this edge, and with the, maybe let's fix this one a little bit too. And just with the edge selection, I will select this face and fill it like that, and we don't have any more of this problem. Now on the back side of the belt we're having the same thing, so let's just do the same thing quickly. Delete it, position it, extrude it, fix in a position, and fill the faces. Okay, basically quickly fixing and modeling. Okay, so Now this is not extruded, have that in mind. Now I extrude and Alt S. Of course, again, we will need to crease this. Maybe we create a new problems here, but with the mirror that just happens. If you don't want to be dealing with these problems, just turn off the mirror. But for me, I think it's okay. Fixing few problems is not that bad. And basically the same fixing method. We'll just need to crease it. And there shouldn't be any more problems here. Okay, when we're done, we can actually use subdivision modifier. Let's unhide everything. And we can clearly see the belt now. If Shift N, I just check that the faces are facing the front. If you don't like this gradient shading from very dark to very light, you can add loops and drag them close to the edges, so you'll have a smooth shading. And at this point, we can add a little bit more detail with another belt. You probably will have a lot of problems with the position of your shirt. So what you can do is go into edit mode. You probably won't be able to move it in the sculpting mode too well. Edit mode, use proportional editing, connect it only, and just move it with the mouse wheel. Adjust how much interaction it gets. And just try it get in a place like that by selecting one place and moving, because mine one is already adjusted because I did a test modeling before the tutorial and the shirt got saved. That's basically what I did. Okay, so let's just quickly check how it looks like with the body. I think it's looking great. We can hide it for a bit, and we will need another belt. So I'll just duplicate the belt, and I will actually apply the mirror modifier at this point, because this is going to be a bit different belt. I will hide the top because we won't need it. Check the one which doesn't have a mirror modifier, and proportional editing is off. It's still mirroring, so let's check if in the tools the mirror is off. Okay, it's off now. And what I will do is actually rotate it and scale it a bit. We can make it a bit smaller in the Z-axis because we will be scaling it. So I'll scale on Z-axis and I rotate it. Now I scale the full thing. And we will have something like this. I'll use the sculpting tool to move it in a position. Now at this point you probably shouldn't be in too much of a hurry and get this in a nice position. Okay, nowhere to hurry, don't forget that. And it might be a bit hard to control. So another thing we can do is actually make a new build. So I'll create an edge. I'll actually use 16 vertices. Move it higher, rotate it, and get it closer to the body. maybe a bit less big. And I'll just extrude it and press Z to move it down. Now try to adjust it closer to the body. And we can select everything and scale it on E-axis to get it better. We can slide the edge a bit higher so the thickness looks similar to that one. And actually in the sculpting mode, we can quickly fix the position. Yeah, perfectly quickly made a belt. Now we can just shade smooth in the object mode. And of course add 2 edges. And we can actually need to extrude everything first. Inflate slowly. When we get the wanted thickness, now we will select the middle part and deflate. Let's check the normals with Shift N. And let's again crease the edges which we want to crease. So very quickly, just modeling the belt. If it's two-way, we of course going to use a subdivision. Can use twice. And you see that the dark shading disappears, but if we're using only one, you can add 2 loops here. Let's unhide. And you can see mine is rather well hidden, but in this place I think we can sculpt the belt and not the jacket itself and just move it a bit closer. And just slowly adjust it. Nowhere to rush. And yeah, we have a belt. Now we can make this one brown material as well, or just turn off the material from that one. You can actually turn off material for all of these details we're trying to add. Let's see with the body. Nice. And now with this one you can do anything. You can add a gun, a sword. So we quickly just add a sword hilt. So I will create a circle with an 8 vertices. Go edit mode. Move it to side, scale on x-axis. Now scale everything. Get it close to the body. And I'll just extrude it down. Now it's depending on what type of sword we're trying to make, but I will extrude one more and scale it on E-axis. Can add one more loop here and scale only on E-axis to make it a smoother look. And you can just connect these parts, add a loop, which will add 1 vertice and finish it like this. Shade smooth. Let's check if the normals are facing the right way. And this is where our sword would be sitting. We can add the thickness. Now we don't need to add the thickness to all object. You can do it only for this one loop. Just extrude it and scale it down. You'll probably need to scale it on E-axis a bit more to make it even. And it seems like it has thickness now. We can work a bit more on it. And just get it closer to the belt. Now, if you're rotating only the front view, it might look too bland. So let's rotate it on the z-axis a little bit. Get it close to the hilt. You can lift it if you want. The swords usually weights in that way. And we're kinda done with the model. So yeah, thank you everyone for watching this tutorial, and see you in the next one.